Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening in from. I'm Justin Skizik, host of the Rise Up podcast, and I'm here with Mr. Moti Menachem. Moti Menachem. He is the CTO and Managing Partner at Goldnest. They are a hospitality and property management group that partners with luxury property owners to turn their properties into short and mid-term rentals into high-performing assets with hands-off end-to-end property management across Texas, Florida, and I think you guys are expanding, are going to be growing on from there. But Moti, thanks for joining me today on the Rise Up
My
podcast.
pleasure. My pleasure. Happy to
So,
be here.
okay, I love it. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me kind of your take on, I just kind of gave my version of Gold Nest. What is, how did Gold Nest start? How did you come into play? And you're located in Tel Aviv, so he's nice enough to spend time with me tonight. But tell me, how did it all start? How did you come into the fold? Who do you serve and all of that?
Okay. Perfect. So, whenever people ask me, okay, what Goldness does, what do you do, guys? Uh, Simply say, okay, so we are basically a distributed five-star hotel in Texas. But in reality, we actually trying to totally move away from a hotel experience and try to give a totally different experience for hospitality, which is more, uh, you know, less, more personal, less cold and old-fashioned like hotels, because there are plenty of hotels today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the vision when Golden started back in 2016. Two guys, Oshik and Tal, our founders, they had a small activity. They just, bought a few houses and decided, okay, let's try to make some revenue stream out of it. And instead of going to, the traditional rental, they decided to jump right into the Airbnb short-term rental business. And after a few houses, I think the third or the fourth, they realized that managing a house in short-term rental is a totally different story than you know uh, a tenant that lives there for a year or two, and basically it's a whole different operation, right? This is exactly the point where, and I think most of the property management started this way. Founders decided that it's not realistic to keep it all together. Being a one-man show for more than two houses, that you need, guest turnovers and maintenance on a different level and a different scale than a regular tenant that lives in your house. So I think this is where the idea born, and from there on they decided, okay, so we are going to basically start an operation of property management. We will do it end to end. We will keep everything under one roof, try to be very cost effective. But I think the biggest, and the first mode that you have to overcome is to become profitable. You think that generating money from short-term rental would be much more profitable than having a tenant, but eventually, when you try to do that, you realize, wow, there are plenty of more expenses that I didn't even realize, I didn't take under considerations. And when you try to grow, you need to be very efficient. So you want to keep everything under your control. You want to basically be end-to-end company that does everything with the minimal and the most efficient cost. Because having contractors and third parties joining the party, so to speak, costs, right? At the beginning, it's
Right. They all
very
want to
hard to
slice the
be,
pie, right? Yeah.
yeah. And so you can make it work, but you probably won't make it profitable, right? So the whole idea of starting a property management within the short-term rental field is to be able to control everything and do it in the most efficient way you can. And that exactly the state of mind that later on would be the biggest foe, I would say, when you try to scale, really scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to, at some point, which usually comes in a very late stage in the game, you realize that you're not small anymore.
Hmm.
It's very cost effective realization, and it's a very delayed point in time where you realize that. And it's a painful point. And then you say, okay, I want to grow. And if I want to grow, I need to change my operating system altogether. I need to think differently. And that's a transition, usually towards the tech, data-driven decisions, automations, smart devices, et cetera, right? And I think going back to your question, that was a long story, but going back to the question, I met Oshik and Tal exactly at that point. I come from a technological background, and basically they were my clients. I developed a homeowner portal for them. That was a proprietary development that they decided to do because they couldn't find any tool that would give them what they wanted at the time. And for me, that was a side project. And from that project, we actually got to meet each other, and the relationship started to found. And we realized that we actually think alike. And I really, really like scaling up businesses. I really like the dilemmas and the challenges that a small business has faces, right? And how to solve them when they try to scale. It actually met me right in the right spot where my passion is. And I told him, okay, guys, I think we can do something together. Let's examine
Hmm.
that. Let's see what we can do.
Hmm.
And we tried, a few directions. It didn't work out at the beginning. Each side had different issues at the time, and eventually it happened. A few years later, we came back to the same table, had the same conversation, but this time we actually decided, okay, let's join forces and let's work together. And from there on, the company actually invested a lot in technology and in data and information systems and automations and smart devices, which is all being led by in-house development, small development team that I developed, realizing that even when you become a tech company, you're not becoming a tech company, but if you want to shift and move to a more technological background, you need to start small. You need to start organically because the DNA of the company is definitely not of a tech company, right? So
Right.
there's a
Right.
culture shifting. There's a whole set of challenges that you need to face once you decide to move to that direction, I would say.
So, how would you describe the current? Okay, so as you guys are building the tech and getting kind of up to speed with, well, you guys are focused in the luxury sector. So, who would be an ideal either client that would come on board as one of their properties, or somebody wanting to use one of the properties? What would be the who would be your ideal client?
Okay, so let's start with the homeowners. I guess that from the homeowner side, we work with people that have a specific, I would say they have a house and which is usually 6 to 8 rooms. We're talking about 1,500 square feet and above, usually with a pool and in a good location. And they will approach us. Sometimes we say right from the beginning, listen, we don't think the house will fit our product,
Hmm.
and or it might fit, but we definitely need to renovate or add amenities and stuff like that. So usually when we see a fit, we have a setup project that takes up to 3 months. We bring our renovation teams and setup teams, and we will take the house from basically we will adjust it to Airbnb requirements and SDR requirements. And then once it is done, we are listing the house and then managing everything end to end. So from the homeowner perspective, we're looking for clients that they have a house paid already or they took a mortgage and they're looking to generate revenues from that. They have no intention to sell it in the near future. They're not going to live in that house, and they want to move away from the regular, renting model where you have a tenant for a year or two.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, then you can get a much higher percentage of ROI from STR than a regular tenant. And I think this is where, and so you need to be in a mindset where you understand the project. You need to understand that you need to invest a little bit at the beginning in order to really get to high performance with the house. And once you're there, you need to be, there is a lot of trust between the homeowner and the property manager, especially in the STR, right? Because
Yeah.
plenty of people are moving, getting in, getting out from your house. We are responsible for the maintenance. We need to keep the house always in a good shape, and that comes with expenses. So sometimes something breaks, and you need to inform the homeowner. It's in a much more rapid cycles than within a regular property management
Right.
operation, right? So
So,
that
I
can
mean,
be every
you're basically turning somebody's house into a business. I mean, that's what you're doing,
exactly,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and from the guest side, I would say so. Vacation rental is part of the business, definitely, but it's not necessarily the only thing or the main drivers. Okay. One of the things that we are trying to develop would be what we call, or the industry calls, corporate housing, which is it's a big title, but at the end of the day, we work with insurance companies and corporates and agencies that would like to relocate people for a midterm rental period. And for example, during COVID, it was very popular to companies try to relocate a bunch of teams into one location, which is not necessarily the office, but still within the vicinity of the office. And that was actually, this is where we started to engage with these kinds of clients. And we saw that it's a very, very profitable product, I would call it, or service, since you don't have that much of a, turnovers. You keep the guests for 3 months. So cleaning costs is much lower than usual, and you can book ahead and make sure that the house is in a high occupancy rate. There's plenty of advantages of doing that, but that's actually moving us away from B2C to a more B2B type of business, and it
Interesting.
has its own challenges, obviously. So I hope I answered your questions by
You did. You
mentioning
did.
these two. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, okay, about you particularly, right? You're chief technical officer. You have a technical background. You love to work. You like to solve problems, and things make more efficiently. Be more efficient and those kind of things. I think you and I are kind of two peas in a pod when it comes to that, in different lights, but adjacent to one another. So, have you always, like, kind of going back in your particular career journey, have you always had that passion, or how did you kind of fall into the tech side of it? Kind of way before you even started with Goldnest.
Yeah, well, if we go all the way back, so when I was 12, I got my first computer back in the 80s. And my first passion was to develop games. I was a game developer, and this is where I actually started my tech journey in my life. I was pretty good at that, actually, but back in the 80s, computers were like 64K. I think I had a
Yeah. I think we're both old enough to remember those days.
Yeah. So then I was like my first, early years with tech, and then I actually left it for a while. And I used to work in my at the beginning of my career, I worked with my father in my family business. We used to have a low tech factory, and I helped him after the army service. I just went back and worked with him again. I started a little bit before the army service, and after that, I went back to the family business. And there was, you know, seeing my father. I come from a family where, business owners. So I got the chance to see all the struggles building a business right from the beginning as a child. And I think business owners always occupied with problems to solve, right? And how to scale and how to figure or learning new stuff every day, right? It's a journey with a lot of with a learning curve all the time.
Mhm,
You can't
mhm.
stay still and do nothing when you're a business owner. And I think this is where I got my passion to look at the situation and try to think, okay, how can we make it more efficient? How can we make it more, how can we
Mm,
scale it, right? Because
mhm.
you can do more of the same and grow, but scaling is like using a totally different fuel, right? It's an escape velocity that you're trying to create here. And I think this is where I got my passion. And later on in my life, I decided that computer science is what I want to study. And from there on, all my roles were uh, technological roles, I would say. But one of the things that really changed my life is that at some point in my life, I realized that I don't really have a passion to the technology as much as I have a passion to the product management.
Mm,
And being able to merge these two worlds together was a breaking, not a breaking point, but that was like an epiphany for me in my life. Understanding that technology is just the vehicle, but
right.
the vision really comes from the product was an enlightening moment in my life. And I
Yeah.
think now, if you ask me what I do in my life, I do product management all the time, asking where is the problem. 95% of the time is analyzing the problem, 5% is try to decide, okay, how do we solve it? And I think that's the mentality I am in right now.
Awesome. So what would be, and this is going to be hard for you to answer because just I already know it going into it. So just bear with me. What does an average day look like for you right now, working at Gold Nest or working on the platform?
That's a good question. First of all, time difference is tough, right? We have a guest communication center in the Philippines. We have compliance and listing department in Brazil. Uh,
Boy.
the operation is in Dallas, right? We have people in
Yeah.
Mexico. We have one of the founders, Tal, which is he leads the hospitality department, is in Toronto. So we are all over the place. So you can imagine how tough it is to run a schedule and
I
meetings.
bet.
So most of my intense hours of the day are starting at the early afternoon till night, and morning time is usually when I do the research. I write some code, I must admit, from time to time. I read emails and stuff like that, right? And I talk to sometimes some of our vendors, software vendors, are located in Europe or in Israel. So morning time is really a good time to catch up or do all the meetings with these guys. And yeah, but it's I try to put some kind of we try to put a template right into the week and try to focus. We have a obviously a weekly meeting with all the executive level when we call it the quartet. And we meet and we speak strategy. We talk about strategy. We talk about numbers and dashboards and everything that is already running and things that we need to build in order to have a better conversation around numbers.
Right. Right.
And most of the rest of the week, I have a daily meeting with the development team and, firefighting from time to time, which is
That's,
on a
that would be
daily
tough.
basis.
We got a global team balancing all the different time zones and, you know, all
Yeah.
of that. That would be, I can imagine that would be a challenge. Appreciate you answering that question. So, what kind of major shifts are you seeing in the hospitality, short term, midterm rental industry right now?
Well, that's a huge one. I think that the major shift right now, it's not just in hospitality. That's like I would say that's like the most felt change is the adoption of AI, right? I think this, like, everybody's trying to jump on that train without understanding how and where and why sometimes. So there is a big FOMO in the industry, not in our industry specifically, but in low tech companies, I would say, or service companies that try to replace or enhance the teams with AI. And I think this is strategically, this is like a huge subject that we need to tackle this year, obviously. Also, it brings a lot of, I think, another, not ethical, but a lot of product questions. How to involve AI in a luxury business without making it feel cheap. right? Because
Hmm.
when you think about luxury businesses, usually it's a handmade products, like take Rolls-Royce, for example. The whole point
Right.
is,
Right.
car assembly by hand. And I think whenever you put AI, you need to be very careful that it's not in your face, that it's not overtaking the experience. But at the same time, you really want it to be efficient more than the human in the loop and try to escalate only when needed to the human in the loop. So I think this is like a huge question. And all the vendors that we work with are integrating it, not even the vendors for our specific niche, but take task management softwares and ticket management and generic software will incorporate AI whenever they can. And I think it's a really, it's a mind-blowing revolution right now, but it's still we are very far from understanding how we should integrate that into the product and experience. And I think those that will be able to do that correctly will win the game eventually.
Right. I think you're 100% correct that, it can be seen as like a shiny object. Like, ooh, like I heard that I need AI in my business, so I must get a $20 chat GPT account and I'm good to go. Like, you know what I mean? But that's really not the case. And you're right. It is mind blowing what we can do with it if you know how to bridge the gap between efficiency and what I'm hearing from you, and I've heard it from other people I've talked to as well, without losing the touch of humanity. And specifically within the luxury industry, there's a lot of white glove, service, and you don't want to lose that. So how does it fit? And to be strategic about it, I'm 100% agreement with you. You have to really think about it, and you have to really, you coming from a technical background, like, of course it's like awesome, but does it make sense? That's the question I think you're asking if I'm reading between the lines. So how are you guys using it at Goldnest so far? Like, how have you, can you give some examples of integration strategies?
Yes, so plenty of, I think that the biggest moat in operational companies and operation in general is the behind the scene tasks that we see, right? So it's not about guest communication necessarily. It's more about, managing cleaners, making sure you get all the inspections in time, making sure that you really, distribution, for example, right? So there's plenty of decisions that you need to take in order to be able to distribute linens and many other supplies to the houses every day on a very, very challenging route, right? And there is plenty of unexpected issues that are coming every minute, and you want to make sure that you're not missing anything from products or guest experience perspective, right? You want to make sure that your brand consistency is always felt and you don't miss anything. Because once you get a bad review, that's too late, right? You don't want to get to that point. And there are plenty of signs along the way that can tell you that something is about to go wrong, and you need to be able to detect them in time. And I think the human eye is not sensitive enough when you're dealing with a scale business and when you're growing really, really fast. Team cannot keep the same level of productivity and efficiency when you try to meet the day-to-day challenges and still scale at the same time. And I think this is where AI really, really can contribute, right? We try to now integrate. So we have a function that calls coordinators, right? They're right in the middle between guest communication and field teams and housekeeping department. And their job is to route information and tasks between departments and make sure that we close the loop eventually and a problem that started with the guest in stay eventually resolved and everybody's happy, right? And we did the maximum we can do and we close the loop on this one. And I think that what we try to do is to enhance a department like that and making sure that most of the things, the checkups and the things that can be done on a routine manner that doesn't really require high intelligence, but really needs to be quick and
Mm.
accurate. And I think this is where we're trying to build right now, those layers of AI. We also obviously try to improve guest communication, but this is a tricky one, I guess. Because guest communication, I mean, one of the things we also try to do, not just, around AI, is to start building the departments based on KPIs and key results, right? We want to be able to say, okay, this department is being measured by this, and this, and to decide what are you going to put on those KPIs, on those indicators is
Mhm.
crucial to the success. Because, for example, I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with our guest success manager. So we decided we will try to put all the KPIs on the board. And one of the KPIs that came out was, how fast you answer questions, right? And if you tell an AI bot to answer fast and always be correct, and or you give it instructions to have a warm tone or whatever you decide is part of your brand, you can find yourself answering fast by totally missing the guest experience, right? Because it's not about answering fast, it's about solving the problem as fast as
Right. The
possible.
quality of the answer.
The quality, exactly.
The
And I
tone
think,
and the way it is, that's just the wrapper,
exactly,
right? Okay.
exactly. And I think this is where you need to start. Whenever you go with AI, you definitely want to see, okay, what's the outcome that I'm trying to achieve here? Am I aiming for the right direction? Because AI will take any mistake you do and will take it, to 10 times, uh, scale it up in 10 times. So if you did a mistake, it will be a 10 time a bigger mistake once you let AI control the situation. So I think you need to start by designing the teams and your departments and your KPIs and your business requirements before you put AI in control. And it's a very challenging process. I mean, try to do that in parallel to day-to-day operation is almost impossible, to be honest. Especially if you're still in a growing pain and in the beginning of the scaling process,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you need to change culture, you need to change technology, you need to implement processes, new processes in place, and it's a very, very challenging commitment that you need to take from everybody around the table.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we are challenging right now, to be honest.
So as you guys are, you're in the growing pains of scaling because of the success of Goldnest. What's working well for you guys right now, and what is the biggest, or most frustrating thing you guys are faced with in terms of that?
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty happy with the process right now. I think that everything that I just told you is was part of the early conversations that we did when we decided to bet on AI and on technology, and I think that it's we've managed to grow significantly during this year. I mean, we're at around 240 houses in our portfolio. We have a very satisfaction level from guests, and I think this is something we definitely want to keep. We also have high ranks on Google, which drives a lot of customers to our business without spending too much on marketing. And I think the organic value or the organic assets that you develop over time it's a hard work, right? You really need to give or provide a good service in order to get that reviews. And I think we're in a good point. Having said that, we're still far away from being where we want to be in terms of, I would say, infrastructure to support our goal, which is 400 houses in our portfolio. And it's always, it's a one step forward, sometimes two step backs
Right.
in order to get to the right or shifting from one angle to the other in a zigzag manner just to make sure that eventually you you see the destination, you agree on the destination, and then you get there.
Yeah. It's never a straight line, is it?
Never.
Never. It's always
And it's
like,
also it's also not a linear line, right? When you grow up, it's a step function.
yeah,
You need to get to a point there's a plateau, you need to invest, you need to investigate, you need to research, and then you move back up and then and to the right, right? So that's
yeah. So do you guys have any plans? Because you guys are mostly in Texas and Florida. in the United States. Are there any plans for you guys? Are you wanting to expand beyond those 2 states, or what's the vision of the company? Are you guys just like, for now, we're just staying with those just until we hit the 400, ish in the
Yeah,
portfolio and then go from there?
so I think that we can say that we are mainly in Texas. Florida is very different from Texas. We can see that it's totally different rules, to be honest. It's a different market, different rules, different dynamics, different homeowners. I mean, it's a different type of clients, to be honest. And in our, I think we've established our knowledge and our expertise within the Texas market, and I think we feel very comfortable with Texas. We do have aspiration to move to neighbor states and grow naturally from there. We don't have any plans to conquer Europe or the world for that matter.
Right. Okay.
We do believe in organic growth and investing in the quality of the service and the product that we provide.
Got it. Okay. So what metrics are you then most focused on improving over the next maybe 6, 12 months? Like, where do you guys want to be here and there between now and then?
So I think well, everybody in the industry this year can tell you that this was a tough year. It's not like any previous years that we've experienced. I think the economical situation in the States reflecting on this. It's not, I think luxury in general got a hit this year due to uncertainty in the markets and the outcomes of the inflation. And we see that in the housing market in general, and that also part of the equation, right? If
Right.
there's stagnation in the housing market, then traffic in our market is also influenced. So I think that we're trying to push or improve profitability and trying to at the same time improve the quality of the service that we provide. I think these are the two north stars you can say for us this year. And it's not easy. I mean, they're very contradicting in many ways, right? One is always on the expense of the other. And I think that especially in luxury businesses, right? If you want to give a good service, a high quality service, it costs. Sometimes, we want to treat every guest as special, right? Which means every guest is an exception. An exception is expensive. So if you have especially when you try to be, efficient, right? So I think I know it's a very high level answer, but I think if you try to break it down, I think what we're trying to do now is to be able to be more accurate with measuring our activity. I think that one of the things we try to do, and we invested a lot of work this year on the financial infrastructure and the information system around financial. Uh, because I think that it's also once you grow and you realize that, okay, I need numbers not in a delay of 2 months. I need them, maximum 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I need to know what happened this month in order to be able to react and to
Right.
keep everything intact and on the same or the right route, I would say. And I think that's a challenge. If you try to collect data, if you try to maintain data, you need to invest in infrastructure again, and you need to make sure that you have the knowledge and the capabilities to do so. And you have the analytics tools to be able to draw conclusions out of the data. And I think that the days of Excel sheets and office tools, ended for us long time ago. We need to, and we are developing a lot of in-house and using off-the-shelf tools in order to create a better environment for data and analysis. To be honest.
Right. Because I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, you got to be able to use the data to pivot quickly if you need to. So you can't wait 6 months down the road or a year down the road. You're like, I need the numbers now because we need to know in real time or as close to real time as possible so you can make the decisions you guys need to make. Mm. So I have kind of a couple reflective questions. But before I get there, I have one question for you. Is if you could wave kind of a metaphorical magic wand and just fix one thing in the business that's holding you back or slowing you down, what would that be?
That's a tough one. Being able to be in Dallas every day, for sure. That's like my private wish. Being close to the field, to the operation is extremely important, I think. But I guess the second thing would be, I think that the biggest challenge that we have today is try to separate from uh day-to-day activity and being able to sit back and be more strategic instead of tactic.
Mm,
And sometimes, trying to figure out what would be the best step for us is to take all my partners, all the executive level, and try to free them from the day-to-day fight. And I think this is where they're getting buried, and it's painful sometimes because you know that this time, instead of being tactic, you really need to start the strategic conversation. And we do so actually. I didn't mention that, but we have every quarter we try to take an offsite, move away from the office, try to be in Europe or in some place else on the globe, and talk only strategy and be able to do so. So I guess being able to do that more would be amazing for us.
nice. It's kind of like in business, there's like in a car, you have low beams and high beams, right? Like low beams are what you typically drive every day, but sometimes you need, you flip the switch and you get the high beam so you can see farther. Most businesses tend to operate in low beam. They just maybe take once a year to look at the high beam, to flip the switch and go, where are we being in a strategic way? Like, where do we need to be? What's best for us and for the team and for the business? And so it's important, I think, in my opinion, that, businesses do that because you can get bogged down with you know, all the nitpicky stuff. There's a difference between a business owner and a business operator. Big difference. So, the operators are in it every day, you know, dealing with it. And so when you get to a certain point, I think as you're scaling, it's interesting that you guys you're at this junction where you have to make a leap, but to what degree do you need to do it? And being smart without sacrificing the quality and the service that, Goldnest provides to its clients. So appreciate you answering that question. I got a couple other ones for you.
All right,
These
I'm
are kind of
ready.
like a little bit more reflective, and then we'll wrap it up. So I appreciate you spending time with me today, Moti.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
so looking back, okay, you've been at Goldnest for what, like how many years now? Few years? 3,
Years, more
3
than
years.
three.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just kind of even looking back, even the last 3 years or even farther, if you could give your younger self one piece of business advice, what would that be?
With regards to Goldness, you mean, or in general in life?
I would say let's start with Goldnest. If you can go back 3 years, what would be one piece of advice, knowing what you know now? What would you tell your younger self 3 year earlier Moti?
Not that young, to be honest. Yeah, comparing to my age. Yeah, it's
Well, 3 years is a long time. It still is.
yeah.
It goes by quick.
I would buy them back for sure. I would say that even though the business really looks okay and numbers are getting higher and higher from year to year, we still need to prepare a plan for tough years, right? You need to be able to draw a plan B scenario and to prepare for that. That would be one thing. And the second thing would be, just don't stop the process of analyzing the financial data in the middle just because you don't really have the time to discuss it. I think that one of the things that really changed the conversation in Goldness is the fact that we actually build our first financial dashboard. That's changed everything because from moving on a hunch, on a gut feeling, we started to have a conversation about numbers and facts. And this is really where you can prepare yourself for any scenario in the future, even though you feel that everything is really, everything is okay, a-okay, right? But a small, change in trend between expenses and, revenues, and you find yourself in a very, very challenging. But even if it's for 1 month, it's still very unsettling when you realize that you weren't profitable this month, right? And okay, so if next month I'm not profitable, it's still okay. But what happened if 3 months I won't be able to? What's going to be the bottom line for the end of the year, and how next year is going to look like? And I think that a dashboard, the financial dashboard, but having a dashboard that you really trust, because you can put numbers, and you can do it manually, and you can okay, and then you discover, oh, sorry, I did a mistake in that formula, so it's not really this, it's that, and if you don't believe in your dashboard, it's useless. So I think investing in the right, not just the technology, but the processes of processing data on a routine manner and being able to generate something that is trustful and reliable and starting early with that, that would definitely drive a different conversation and change the conversation altogether, I think.
Mm. Did you build your dashboard at
Yeah.
Goldnest? You built it yourself? Okay, cool. Look at that. You have the talent to do the man
We
with the
try.
skills.
There's
There
always
you go.
something better, but
Yeah,
you need to
yeah,
start with something. I think it's
nice. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a second part to that question. Like going back, like personally, going back to your well, in your professional career. You don't need to talk about your personal life if you don't want to. But what is one thing you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now, when you started at what 12 years old? You said. What would
yeah.
you tell your younger self?
Wow, it's a deep one. On a personal level, I would say check your priorities all the time. I mean, we grow up and we change, and I got married in a very late age in my life, and happy, happy father and a husband. I have 2 kids, and I think that starting early on this one probably would have changed my entire personality, I would say. And I think that even today on a business, right? If we talk about business and professional life, I think that priorities is and being able to check them from time to time and be able to adjust them is
Mm,
very important and not run on autopilot all the time, having your self-to-call dashboard of priorities and never, advising it and testing it from time to time and challenging it.
mm, good words of advice. What would you What do you do? Because you're working with a global company. You've expressed, we have different time zones. Everyone's, it's late for you right now as we're talking late in the day or late in the evening. So, being a father and a husband and working and having the time zones that you're dealing with, what are some things that you do to stay sane? To, to I don't know, I would call it, like what do you do to stay healthy in all of that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, okay. So I would say my top priority is spending time with my kids, being able to be present in their life. I think this is like by far the most healing part in my routine. Obviously, sport and exercise is very important, especially when you sit hours and hours in front of a computer and try to and managing stress. I think stress obviously is something that just grows and grows as we moving into the tech world and the fast moving world,
Mm,
and especially when you work in crazy time zones. I think that managing stress is very important, and I try to put a lot of effort to examine how I perform under stress and try to improve that all the time.
awesome. Well, yeah, that's running a business and being part of being in the entrepreneurial world. It can be extremely stressful. And you're
Definitely, it's a
like,
roller
why did
coaster.
I decide to do this again? Why? You ask yourself those questions. Okay. Final question. This is an easy one. Um, is there anything you like to promote or highlight during this podcast episode that we haven't talked about yet? Giving you the floor.
Well, not really. I can't think of something, that I guess I didn't come prepared after all.
All right, all right. I mean, it's not required. You don't have to answer the question. I'm just curious if there was, but
Yeah, give me a hint. Give me an idea. Maybe I'll try to flow
everyone's
with it.
different. I mean, everyone's different. Sometimes people have like, hey, they're going to be at a specific trade show or specific
Got it.
event, or if they have a promo that they're running. I know you guys aren't really you're not doing promos per se. You don't run those things, but maybe how about this? How do people find out about you?
Great question. So I think that the easiest way is to just, Google Goldnest. Where if you're in Texas, Google Goldnest and you see us in the first three results for sure. And try to book direct with us. That would be my message to people. It's much more it's much more economically wise for both sides, I guess.
Got it. So goldnest.co, that's the URL. If you're listening to this, I'll put it in the show notes, links to get, to check you guys out. And, if you're in the need for a nice property to hang out in for a few months while you're getting relocated or your company's interested, hit them up. These guys are the best. So, Moti, thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
time with me today. I really do appreciate your heart and your vision and everything you're doing. And if nobody's told you this today, I'm going to tell you, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of all the
Thank you.
work you've done. I'm proud of the diligence and the grit and determination it takes to get to the level that you play at. And I'm proud of you, man. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for hanging out with me again. It's goldnest.co if you'd like to check that out. And that pretty much wraps up today's episode on the Rise Up podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.